Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. Today we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane and looking back on some of the best Eisendrache Easter eggs in Black Ops 3. If you want to see me do this on other maps as well, then drop a like on the video and let me know which map I should do next in the comments section. So let's start things off with a nice straightforward one, shall we? It's the Disco Ball Easter egg. This is a really easy Easter egg to do, and it was a nice contrast to some of the other more serious eggs that we were all trying to solve as a community when the map came out. It's very straightforward. You just use explosive damage on this thing here, and voila, you end up with a shiny new disco ball installed inside the church that you and your friends can dance under the light of. But if that's not so much your style and you prefer Easter eggs that have higher stakes with better rewards, then you're probably more of a fan of the fabled 935 clock Easter egg, which goes in a bunch of different directions. To start with, it's pretty unassuming. You set the time in the clock tower to 935 using the lever in there, and no, this isn't a step for the main quest Easter egg in case you guys still think that it is. It isn't. But once you've set the clock to 935, you're going to be able to go back in time via the weird wall pad things that are in the Undercroft. And if you've grabbed this potted plant that's on the side by the Undercroft teleporter before you go back in time, you'll be able to do two things once you get back there. One is grabbing yourself a freshly minted new Plunger, which you're going to be able to attack things with. More on that in a second. And two is you'll be able to put that potted plant back where you found it, except we're back in time now. And so when you leave that room and you re-enter the present day, the potted plant will have grown, and if you interact with it, you'll get yourself a free gobblegum, just like we could get a free gobblegum from doing that secret side quest in Shadows of Evil. Now, I reckon the reason this is in the game is Treyarch probably saw our reaction to that egg in Shadows and went, yo, they're all loving this. How can we make this quest even better? Make it even sort of part of the lore of the map. And the fact that we utilize going back in time in order to get it is just so cool to me. And it obviously doesn't end there, because we also have the Plunger now. And at first, when the map came out, I don't think the Plunger was working as intended. It actually got patched a few days after launch, I believe. And what that patch did is it made sure that when you get a kill on a Panzer after you've picked up the Plunger, you'll actually get an upgraded Plunger that insta-kills Panzers. And on launch, I believe this only lasted about 30 seconds, but then that got patched. And it really is just a perfect reminder for me of how much fun Treyarch themselves as a dev team had with the designs of some of their quests back in Black Ops 3. Like, think back to the days of even Black Ops 2, actually, getting the golden spork in Mob of the Dead and thinking, that's so funny, we've got like this little kitchen utensil as a weapon in zombies now. And then boom, DE comes out, we get a Plunger, and then Zetsimo comes out and we got buckets everywhere, and it's like, Jason, bro, you trying to fill out the like laundry closet with utensils right now? Like, what's going on? I really loved that attitude, and I think that the fact that the Plunger is so powerful as well is also just so awesome. This wasn't just a meme, it actually made a really significant difference to your gameplay experience if you grinded to get it. So I loved that stuff, and that's why this is definitely one of my favorite Easter eggs in DE, hands down. Another really good one that was much more obscure, I think, was the one where you have to throw a nade in the tram and then you use it 5 times and you get an upgraded weapon from the second tram. I think this one took a little while to solve as well. It wasn't something that we got straight away on launch. And even to this day, I'm not sure if you have to throw the grenade or if there's a reason why you have to throw the grenade. It's such a weird, arbitrary thing, but you can get an upgraded weapon from doing it, and it's pretty consistent as far as I'm aware, so I'll take it. And while it might not have the charm of the Plunger, there is something in that room that has even more charm, and that's the spawn room Easter egg that, relatively speaking, was actually solved really recently. It isn't going to let you one-hit Panzers, but it is going to fill your heart with joy. Or at least it might have done in 2016, but we're 5 years on from DE's release now, and everyone's old and cynical, so who knows if you'll be filled with joy by this. But anyway, I love this Easter egg. It can be accredited to Drew Milo, who is currently MP combat designer at Treyarch, and for a bit of trivia, he also designed Zed for League of Legends. But that's besides the point for this Easter egg, because what he did in the spawn is he set up some scripts so that if you rebuild certain barriers in a certain way in the spawn room within a certain time limit as well, you can then head out of the spawn, and right in front of you there will be a shrine to his family, which at first people were very concerned about because they thought that this was like a grave marker, like maybe he'd lost a child in a accident or something. But thankfully Drew did come out on Twitter and say, hey guys, don't worry, this isn't like a terrible thing, this is actually just a celebration of me and my family. And it's awesome because it's like a more traditional Easter egg. Like, we've obviously had a lot of different crazy crazy Fireball upgrade, all sorts of Easter eggs over the years, right? But some of the bread and butter Easter eggs that you get in video games in general are devs basically saying, hey, I love my wife, or it's an in-joke between co-workers, or it's an I was here message that they don't expect anyone to ever find, and then the internet stumbles on it and creates an entire headcanon theory about it. There's all sorts of stuff like that that's cropped up over the years in the kind of origins of Easter eggs themselves, and this is a beautiful example of it. Drew, salute to you, my friend. It only got cracked because the community started to decompile the scripts for DE as well, so had that not happened, this may have been a secret forevermore. As far as I'm concerned though, I'm happy it was solved, and I hope your family is still doing well, Drew. Now, speaking of ones that were tricky to solve, this next Easter egg was kinda solved, but we weren't doing the proper steps for it until a little after launch. I'd actually made a prediction before DE came out that we were going to be fighting skeletons at some point in the map, and people had found a way to turn on skeletons, but they weren't initially sure why. And then a user on Reddit called RubberCat basically discovered that if you get the in-plain sight gobblegum and activate it, it gives you locations of floating skulls around the map that you can shoot with your bow, and when you do it 3 times, it turns on skellies. And the reason everyone was so confused is that you could still shoot the skulls without in-plain sight vision. It's just that they were invisible, so no one really knew what was happening, and then boom, they turned on skeletons and they kind of freaked out. Anyhow, this is another Easter egg that I absolutely love. I think that this was just such a cool little thing to be able to turn on, especially to kind of troll your friends with. So double thumbs up on the skeleton Easter egg from me. And while we're talking about eggs that took a while to solve, we should probably talk about one that was sort of, I guess, depending on your perspective, never solved. And it got even weirder because it then was removed by Treyarch before we could make any further progress on it, and there's been no word on what the hell the deal is since. So when DE came out, people discovered that if you got Plunger kills once you did that Plunger Easter egg, you could change a newspaper in the church. So in the church, there's a newspaper that says that there's a huge parade in London, and if you got enough kills, it would change to say that there had been a zombie attack in London, and this matched up with another newspaper in Maxis's room. According to Josh Keatley, who made a video about this at the time, you could then get more kills, and it would transform again to zombie attack in the heart of London with this image, which has the zombies on it from Shadows of Evil. But no one knew what to do next. And then, out of the blue, months later, Treyarch just removed the newspaper from Maxis's room. So all the theories that we had been constructing about, like, us sending zombies back in time potentially with the Plunger, and all the inferences that we've been making about how the steps worked and what the next steps could be, kind of got thrown out of the window because suddenly Treyarch were meddling with it, and usually that means that there's a pretty important story reason or something for them to do that, but that never really materialized. It was very bizarre, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one in the comments down below. With all of that stuff covered, while there are several other cool Easter eggs here that I could talk about, I think that the next thing I have to mention is none other than the Panzer hat. It's another egg that kind of made its way in off the back of already having been done in Shadows of Evil, slightly differently, and it follows that same theme that I mentioned before of silly stuff that Treyarch were doing that then resulted in really useful effects for us to use in-game. It is pretty tricky to do, and a lot of the time you might accidentally set off one of those Panzer claws and therefore fail the Easter egg inadvertently, but I kind of feel like that makes the reward even sweeter when you do successfully do it. And hey, I don't think anyone's going to complain about seeing your teammates running around with massive Panzer claws on their heads. It just looks great. So out of all of these, which is your favorite Easter egg? And is there an Easter egg on the map that you feel like I should have mentioned that I didn't? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.